family feud, the price of love and loyalty. Fire! 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 Help! Somebody help! Screamed Martha, as she grabbed her husband to escape from the fire that engulfed their house. We have lost everything. I can't believe this is happening to us. Jordan rushed to his parents' house and was shocked at the devastation he saw. At 21, Jordan Wright felt like he had the world on his shoulders. Fresh out of college with a business degree, he was eager to make his mark. But when his parents, Martha and James, fell on hard times and losing their home in the fire, his life took an unexpected turn. They had both been laid off from their jobs, Martha from her position as a school teacher because she was battling with cancer, and James from the factory where he had worked for over 20 years. With no income and bills piling up, and insurance taking their time to investigate the fire incident, they had no choice but to move in with Jordan in Arlington. At first, Jordan welcomed them with open arms. He understood their situation and was willing to help. He covered their rent, groceries, and even some of their personal expenses. But as weeks turned into months, and then into a year, Jordan began to feel the weight of supporting his parents. They didn't seem to be in any rush to find new jobs, and their presence began to feel more like a burden than a temporary situation. "Mom, Dad," Jordan said one evening as they sat around the dinner table, "I think it's time we had a talk about finances." Martha looked at him, a bit surprised. "What do you mean, Jordan?" "Well, I've been covering everything for a while now," Jordan began, trying to choose his words carefully. "Rent, groceries, medications, utilities. I've even given you both some cash here and there. But I'm just one person, and I have my own bills to pay too. I love you both, and I know you sacrificed a lot for me. But this is too much for me." James nodded, a bit sheepishly. "We appreciate everything you've done for us, son, but we're still looking for jobs. Your mom is looking for an online job to pay for her medications. It's just tough out there." "I know it's tough," Jordan said, his voice softening a bit. "But I've given you over a year now. I think it's only fair that you start contributing something." Martha sighed. "We'll do what we can, Jordan. But until we find jobs, we don't have much to give." Jordan tried to be patient, but as more time passed and no changes came, his frustration grew. He started keeping track of every dollar he spent on them, every grocery trip, every utility bill, every time he handed them cash. It became an obsession for him. Every week, he would remind his parents of the growing tab. It was a hot summer afternoon in Arlington, Texas, and the Wright family reunion was in full swing. The smell of barbecue filled the air, and relatives from all over the country had gathered to share stories, laughter, and memories. But for Jordan, the reunion was just another reminder of the growing tension between him and his parents, Martha and James. He made up his mind not to talk about his parents. He will just enjoy the yearly reunion with his family members. But trouble came during the meal. As everyone sat around the long picnic tables, passing around plates of ribs, coleslaw, and cornbread, Jordan's patience finally snapped. His uncle had just made a casual joke about how kids nowadays don't know the meaning of hard work, and it triggered something deep in Jordan. "You want to talk about hard work?" Jordan said loudly, cutting off his uncle mid-laugh. "How about supporting two grown adults who refuse to get jobs? Now that's hard work." The table fell silent, and all eyes turned to Jordan. Martha and James exchanged uncomfortable glances, clearly realizing they were the target of his outburst. "Jordan, this isn't the time or place for that," Martha said softly, trying to diffuse the situation. "No, Mom, this is exactly the time," Jordan shot back, his voice rising. "I've been paying for everything for over a year, rent, food, even your medication, and all I hear is excuses about how hard it is to find a job. It's time people know the truth." The silence around the table was deafening. Family members who had been laughing moments ago now stared in shock. James clenched his fists but remained quiet, his face filled with humiliation. As the family gathered for a group photo, Jordan stood apart from his parents, his arms crossed, refusing to engage with them. His cousin, who had noticed the distance, walked over to him and asked, Why are you acting like this, Jordan? It's a family reunion. Jordan, feeling the heat of his frustration boiling over, snapped loudly enough for everyone to hear. You want to know why? Because I'm tired of being the only one in this family who pays for everything. My parents have been freeloading off me for over a year, and I'm done with it. Martha's face was drenched with tears, and James looked like he was ready to explode. But before anyone could stop him, Jordan continued. I'm taking them to court to get what they owe me. They've been living off me like leeches, and I'm not going to let it slide anymore. The family erupted in shock, some gasping, others whispering to each other. Martha tried to defend herself, her voice trembling. Jordan, we never wanted this. We've been trying to find work. Everybody was shocked at his outburst. The humiliation was too much. Martha and James stood there, humiliated in front of their entire extended family, while Jordan walked away, leaving everyone in stunned silence. Jordan had taken his parents grocery shopping, as he had countless times before, but this time, something snapped. As they stood in the checkout line, Martha casually added a bottle of wine to the cart, unaware that Jordan was watching her. Do you really need that? Jordan asked coldly, glaring at the bottle. Martha blinked, confused. It's just a bottle of wine, Jordan. Just a bottle of wine, Mom? Jordan repeated, his voice rising. I can't afford that, and this is not good for your health, Mom. I still have to pay bills, and your medications, and you're throwing in luxuries like it's no big deal? Do you even care what I'm going through, Mom? People in the store began to turn and stare as the argument escalated. Martha's face flushed with embarrassment, as she tried to calm her son. I didn't mean, she began, but Jordan cut her off. No, you never mean anything, do you? You just take and take like I'm some kind of bottomless ATM. Martha's eyes filled with tears, but Jordan didn't stop. You know what? Put it all back. You don't need any of this if you can't even appreciate what I do for you. With that, Jordan turned and stormed out of the store, leaving his mother standing there in shock, humiliated in front of strangers. One evening, Jordan complained to his friends, saying, They've been living with me for over a year, and I'm still covering everything. How is that fair? My last paycheck is gone. His friend Marcus, always quick with an opinion, shrugged and said, You should just cut them off, man. They'll figure it out if they have no choice. Another friend, Lisa, chimed in. You've done more than enough. Honestly, taking them to court might be the only way they'll take you seriously. Jordan hesitated. This was a confirmation of what he said at the family reunion party. A few days later, tensions were higher than ever. Jordan had had enough and decided to take drastic action. One evening, he sat down with his parents in the living room, his tone cold and detached. I've decided I'm taking you both to court, Jordan said bluntly, throwing a stack of papers on the table. James looked up from the TV, his brow furrowed. Court? What are you talking about? Are you really serious? So you meant what you said at the family reunion? For non-payment of rent, groceries, and everything else I've covered while you've been living here, Jordan replied without hesitation. I'm tired of being taken advantage of, and I'm going to make sure I get what I'm owed. Martha gasped, her face pale. Jordan, you can't be serious. We're your parents. I'm dead serious, Jordan snapped. You've had over a year to get your lives together, and I'm done waiting. You either pay me back or the court will make sure you do. James stood up, his face flushed with anger. How dare you talk to us like that? After everything we've done for you, raising you, feeding you, giving you everything you needed growing up, you're really going to take us to court like we're strangers? Jordan didn't flinch. You took care of me as a child, yes. But now I'm the one taking care of you, and I'm tired of it. It's time to pay up. One evening, Martha approached Jordan with a weary expression and said, Jordan, I'm sorry to ask, but my medication is finished, and I need money to get more. Your dad gave me part of the money, but I need to pay the balance. Jordan frowned, feeling the familiar weight of frustration, and replied, Mom, I've been covering so many expenses already. Can't we figure something else out? Martha looked down, her voice softening. I understand, but this is important for my health. Sighing deeply, Jordan reluctantly handed her the money, his irritation barely concealed. It wasn't long before the atmosphere in the apartment became tense. Martha and James could feel Jordan's resentment growing, and it began to strain their relationship. They felt trapped, unable to contribute, and increasingly uncomfortable under their son's constant reminders. "I can't keep doing this, Mom, Dad," Jordan told them as they sat in the living room. "I've tried to be patient, but this isn't fair to me. I'm taking you to court to get the money I've spent on you back." Martha was speechless, and James looked at his son with a mix of hurt and disbelief. "Jordan, we're your parents. How could you do this to us?" "I don't want to do this, but I feel like I have no other choice," Jordan said, trying to stay firm. "I've been more than generous, but I need to think about my own future too." "Really, Jordan?" "Really?" Martha looked at Jordan with tears in her eyes and said, "We raised you, Jordan, gave you everything we could, and now you want to take us to court over money?" She continued, her voice trembling. "We never imagined that the son we cared for all these years would put a price on our love and support." Her words were heavy with hurt as she added, "Is this really what it's come to after all we've done for you?" When the court date finally arrived, the tension was overwhelming. Jordan had his documents meticulously organized, every receipt, every bill, every transaction he had made on their behalf. Martha and James sat across from him in the courtroom, looking tired and defeated. The judge, an older woman with a stern but fair demeanor, listened to both sides of the story. Jordan laid out his case methodically, explaining how he had supported his parents for over a year and how it was affecting his own financial stability. "They're my parents, Your Honor, and I love them," Jordan said, his voice steady. "But I'm just asking for them to pay back what I've spent. It's only fair." When it was Martha and James's turn to speak, they both looked at the judge with a mixture of sadness and desperation. "Your Honor," Martha began, her voice shaking slightly, "we never wanted to be a burden on our son. We've been trying to find work, but it's been difficult. We had no idea he was keeping such a close track of everything he spent on us." James nodded in agreement. "We've always been there for Jordan, ever since he was a little boy. We've done our best to provide for him, and we never imagined he'd take us to court over this. We're ashamed and embarrassed to be here." The judge listened intently, her expression unreadable. After hearing both sides, she leaned back in her chair, deep in thought. "Mr. Wright," she said, addressing Jordan, "I understand your frustration. You've been generous, and it's clear that you feel taken advantage of. However, these are your parents. The law can't always account for the complexities of family relationships." Jordan shifted uncomfortably in his seat. He hadn't expected the judge to be so understanding of his parents. "But they owe me, Your Honor," Jordan insisted. "I'm just asking for what's fair." The judge nodded. "I understand that, but sometimes fairness isn't just about money. It's about relationships, respect, and understanding. You've helped your parents during a difficult time, but perhaps it's time to have a conversation about how to move forward as a family." Jordan was angry. This was not what he was expecting from the court. The judge turned to Martha and James. "Mr. and Mrs. Wright, I urge you to continue your efforts to find employment and contribute to the household. But more importantly, I urge all of you to remember that you are a family. Money issues can tear people apart, but they don't have to if you communicate openly and honestly." With that, the judge ruled in favor of neither party. Instead, she recommended family counseling and ordered that both sides work together to create a reasonable repayment plan that wouldn't strain their relationship further. Jordan left the courtroom feeling conflicted. He had wanted to win, to get back what he believed he was owed. But now, after hearing the judge's words, he wasn't so sure he would get his money back. Back at the apartment, the atmosphere was heavy with unspoken words. Martha and James sat down with Jordan, the tension between them palpable. "Jordan," Martha began softly, "we never wanted things to get this far. Your father has applied to several places for a job. I can't work because of my health issues. We're sorry if we've made you feel like we're taking advantage of you." James nodded in agreement. "We love you, son. We don't want money to come between us." Out of nowhere, Jordan screamed at his parents and commanded them to get out of his house in 3 days. These outbursts shocked their parents. Martha reached out and took her son's hand. "We'll figure this out together, okay? We'll make a plan to pay you back and we'll keep looking for jobs. But more importantly, we'll try to rebuild our relationship." But Jordan angrily withdrew his hand from his mom. 3 days later, his parents moved out into a shelter provided by the government. One day, Martha went to a grocery store, took out some coins from her pockets, and bought a lottery ticket. But something incredible happened. One evening, Martha and James received the news that would change everything. They had won the lottery, a staggering amount of money that instantly made them millionaires. Jordan, still furious with them, had no idea what was coming when they invited him to a sit-down. As he walked into the living room, ready for another argument, his parents calmly placed the winning lottery ticket on the table. "We've won," James said quietly, looking Jordan in the eye. Jordan blinked, confused. "Won what?" Martha smiled softly. "The lottery. Enough to pay back everything we owe you and more." The words hit Jordan like a punch to the gut. After all the arguments, the court threats, the public humiliation, his parents were now rich, and he was left standing there, speechless. For the first time in a long time, Jordan didn't know what to say. The silence that followed was thick with irony. In the end, the money he had fought so hard to get back was nothing compared to what they now had. And all Jordan could do was stand there, realizing how much he had lost in his quest to win. "We are millionaires," Martha said, holding up a lottery ticket. "We won?" James added, his voice filled with disbelief. "We actually won the lottery?" "Enough to pay off everything we owe Jordan," Martha said, laughing with joy. "We're going to be okay. Your mom and I are going to be okay." The news felt surreal, like something out of a dream. Jordan couldn't believe that after all the struggles, after everything they had been through, his parents had just become rich overnight. Are they going to give him more than they owe him? Should they? This story reminds me of the parable of the prodigal son. He was forgiven and celebrated. Forgiveness is healthy. If Jesus could forgive us of our sins, why can't we do the same? Let us forgive. No one knows tomorrow.